Okay, get ready, because today we're diving headfirst into a topic that's as old as time but feels surprisingly relevant: Islamic cosmology. We're talking about seeing the universe and how it came to be through a totally different lens.
And it's a perspective that can really challenge your assumptions. We're going to be exploring some fascinating intersections between faith and what we understand as science today.
I have to say, when I first started researching this, I was blown away. 7 Earths, angels moving clouds, a universe that mirrors the Big Bang. It's the
Yeah.
kind of stuff that gets your mind racing.
It's definitely not your average Tuesday.
Not at all. So to unpack all of this, we're going to be drawing on some amazing work by Furqan Qureshi, Islamic history, and of course, the Quran itself.
And what's great about Qureshi's approach is how he brings together all these different threads. Like he starts with the creation of the universe and bam, right away, there's this incredible parallel to the Big Bang Theory.
Right. I mean, Surah Anbiya talks about the universe expanding from a single point, and it's like, whoa, that's exactly what modern science tells us.
It really is remarkable. And what's even more interesting is how this idea of constant expansion sets it apart from how some other religions see the universe as this fixed, unchanging thing. But in Islamic cosmology, the universe is dynamic, always in motion, always growing.
And that leads us to this whole concept of the seven skies. And I'll be honest, at first I thought, okay, they're just talking about like layers of the atmosphere. But it turns out it's way more complicated than that. The Quran talks about skies in Surah Al-An'am and other places, but it's not just the air above us. It's like these entirely separate realms, right?
Exactly. We're not talking about your basic troposphere here. Think of them more like distinct universes, each with its own set of rules, its own possibilities. And there's this fascinating book from the 14th century by Jalal al-Din as-Suyuti, this Egyptian scholar who really goes deep into describing these seven skies.
And here's where it gets really wild, because some scholars believe each of these skies could have its own life forms on it. Life that's maybe way beyond anything we can even comprehend. It makes you look up at night with a whole new perspective.
It really does make you realize how limited our perspective might be. And speaking of things we can't see, Islamic cosmology also introduces this idea of unseen beings like angels, or as they're known in Arabic, malaika. The Quran says they're made of something humans don't even know about, which is why we can't see them.
Which totally makes sense. We only experience a tiny sliver of reality with our senses. Like, just because we can't see something doesn't mean it's not there. It's like with the electromagnetic spectrum, we only see a tiny fraction of the whole picture.
Exactly. We shouldn't let the limitations of our senses limit our understanding of what might actually exist.
And the world of angels, it's not just this vague idea. There's a whole system. There are angels of death, like in Surah Naziyat and Nashitat. Angels of the grave, Munkar and Nakir, who have a role in what happens after we die. Protector angels, even angels in charge of moving the clouds and the wind. Like, can you imagine?
It's a really fascinating way of seeing the universe as being guided by this divine order. Every part of the natural world, even something like the weather, is connected to something bigger.
So we're back, and we're about to step into this whole other world, the world of jinn. I don't know about you, but I grew up thinking of jinn as these kind of mysterious, almost mythical beings.
Right, like something out of a storybook.
Exactly. But from what Qureshi's found, they're actually a lot more relatable than you might think.
Yeah, the way the Quran describes them, they're not so different from us humans in some ways. Like, they eat and drink, they have families, they even struggle with good and evil, just like we do. And there's a whole chapter in the Quran, Surah Jinn, that's dedicated to them, which shows how important they are in Islamic thought.
It's wild to think about these unseen societies existing right alongside ours. And within this world of jinn, you've also got shaitan, which basically means evil jinn, right? Like demons.
Yeah, you could say that, but it's important to be careful about how we interpret things. Qureshi talks about these old texts like the Book of Deadly Names and Kitab al-Farist, which list all these powerful jinn and what they can do.
It sounds kind of intense.
Oh, it definitely is. But the thing is, those accounts were written in a totally different time with a different understanding of the world.
So we can't just take those old interpretations and apply them to, like, modern psychology.
Right, like we can't just say, oh, that sounds like dissociative identity disorder, because that's viewing things through a completely different lens.
It's all about context.
Exactly. We have to respect the historical context, but also recognize that our understanding of things has evolved over time.
Okay, so speaking of jinn, we can't forget the most well-known one of all, Shaitan, or Iblis. He's the one who refused to bow down to Adam, right?
Hmm?
What's the significance of that whole story?
Ah, Iblis. Yeah, his refusal is a huge deal because it sets up this whole battle between good and evil, which is a major theme throughout Islamic teachings.
It's like this cosmic drama playing out on a grand scale.
Right, and it emphasizes this idea that we have free will, that we
Right.
can choose our own path, even if it's the wrong one. And according to the Quran, Allah actually gives Iblis a kind of grace period until Judgment Day.
It's like this constant tension, this reminder that our choices really do matter.
Absolutely. They have consequences, not just in this life, but potentially in the next one, too. But okay, let's shift gears for a minute. We talked about the seven skies, but the Quran also hints at there being not just one earth, but seven.
Wait, 7 Earths? Okay, now you're really blowing my mind. This is next level stuff.
I know, right? It's a lot to process.
Hmm.
But yeah, in Surah Talaq, it mentions both seven skies and seven earths, which has led some scholars to think that our reality with our earth and our sky might just be one of many.
So, like, just like we know now that there are tons of planets out there, there can be tons of versions of Earth in these other realms.
Exactly. It's a mind-blowing concept, and it makes you wonder, what would those worlds even be like?
I know. It's like, could you imagine?
Well, Qureshi actually talks about how the incredible diversity of life on our planet could be a clue. Think about all the bizarre creatures in the deepest parts of the ocean, all the crazy life forms near those volcanic vents. It makes you realize how much variety is possible.
That's true. And that's just on our own planet. Who knows what kind of life could exist on these other Earths, shaped by completely different environments and evolutionary paths.
It's exciting to think about, and it really underscores just how vast creation is and how limited our current understanding really is.
Okay, so we've got this universe that could be teeming with multiple Earths and all these unseen beings. But let's bring it back down to Earth for a second, literally.
Yeah.
The Quran says Adam, the first human, was created from clay, right?
That's right, from clay. And it's so interesting because science has shown that carbon, which is found everywhere on Earth, is the basis for all life as we know it.
It's like this beautiful connection between humanity and the Earth itself. We're made from the same stuff, just like the Quran says. And then there's this whole concept of the soul, the ruh, that Allah breathed into Adam.
Right, the breath of life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this life force, something beyond just the physical body that makes us conscious, makes us alive.
It's that spark that sets us apart.
And it reminds me of this hadith where the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that we're actually responsible for taking care of all creatures with souls, even animals.
That's right. It highlights this interconnectedness between all living things.
Exactly. We're all part of this web of creation. We're not separate from it. But I do have a question that's been on my mind. What about other hominids, like Neanderthals? Where do they fit into all of this?
That's a great question. It makes you really think about what it means to be human.
I know. So were they considered pre-Adamites? Like, did they exist before Adam? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm wondering. Like, where do Neanderthals fit in with this whole idea of creation and humanity's special role?
Well, Qureshi really zeroes in on this idea of language as being super important.
Because
Yeah.
even though Neanderthals were smart, I mean, they used tools, they made fire, they might have even buried their dead. It doesn't seem like they had language the way we do.
Exactly. And in Islamic cosmology, that difference is huge. Like in the Quran, being able to understand and use language is a big part of what makes humans, well, human. There's even a verse in Surah Rahman where Allah talks about teaching Adam the names of everything, and some scholars say that's talking about language itself.
So it's like this gift, this ability to communicate that separates us and lets us do what we're meant to do in creation.
Exactly. And this idea of humans having a special purpose, it's also in Surah Ahzab where it says that humanity was given this responsibility that the heavens and the earth and even the mountains were too afraid to take on.
Wow, that's a pretty heavy responsibility. What was it exactly?
It describes it as a trust, something humans accepted even though the verse also says they were wrongful and ignorant. It's like we have this huge potential, but we also mess up a lot.
So how does that apply to Neanderthals? They weren't given this gift of language, this responsibility.
Right, and that's where things get interesting. Some scholars point to Surah Shura, where it says, "Fear him who created you and those before you with very basic needs." Some people think that those before you could be talking about pre-Adamites, like Neanderthals, showing that they're different from humans.
So even though Neanderthals were a part of creation, they weren't on the same path as humans, not created with the same purpose or the same potential for, like, good and evil.
Yeah, it's a really thought-provoking way of looking at it, and it shows how Islamic cosmology tackles these big questions about what it means to be human and where we fit into everything.
It definitely does. This whole conversation has been mind-blowing. It's incredible how these ancient texts bring up such deep questions and ideas.
Totally. And speaking of big questions, one that comes up a lot, it's about shooting stars. We've all seen them, those streaks of light across the sky. But what do they mean in Islamic cosmology?
Yeah, because a lot of people see them as lucky, right? Like you make a wish when you see one.
Exactly. But Islamic cosmology gives them a more protective role. The Quran actually calls them shahab-e-sakib, these piercing flames that Allah sends to fight off evil spirits.
So there's this whole battle happening in the heavens, and shooting stars are like a reminder that it's going on.
That's the idea. It's
Eh,
like we've got backup in this fight against temptation, the struggle to do what's right.
Wow, it's like a whole new way of thinking about making a wish on a shooting star.
Hmm.
It's not just about hoping for good luck. It's recognizing this bigger picture, these forces we don't always see.
Precisely. It's about acknowledging those unseen realms and realizing that there's more going on than meets the eye.
This has been an amazing journey, really. We've talked about the Big Bang, the seven skies, angels, jinn, even what it means to be human. It's incredible how much Islamic cosmology covers.
It's really a tapestry of knowledge, weaving together faith, science, philosophy, all in these amazing ways.
And I think that what sticks with me the most is that there's always more to discover.
Absolutely. The universe is full of wonder, and Islamic cosmology gives us this unique and mind-blowing perspective to see it all.
So, to everyone listening, keep asking those questions, keep searching for knowledge, and next time you look up at the stars, do it with a sense of awe and wonder. Until next time on The Deep Dive.